of changed the term from active shooter to active violence, because the shooter connotation is limited and limiting in the scope of what we have to deal with, and active violence is truly what we're trying to stop and prepare for. And active violence can be anything from a shooter to an edged weapon, vehicle, explosives, any kind of active violence where there's a bad guy in a position where he's inflicting damage upon innocent bystanders, civilians, schools, shopping centers, any type of public gathering where there is that active violence occurring. The first portion of the training is broken into 3 stations where we kind of break it down into some more basic elements, some hallway movements, some room entry, some decision-making type scenarios, and then from there it kind of culminates in a large-scale, more traditional active shooter or active violent incident type response where we use the entire school and have a bunch of kind of miniature problems for them to overcome in their response. So today, yesterday, tomorrow, obviously these are the incidents that are few and far between, but when they do happen, they're significant, they're high risk, high stakes, and we want to prepare our officers to respond as best they can to these types of incidents. And the time for them to learn is not when it's really happening, and if we can prepare them through training, their outcomes will be much, much better.
Honestly, what generated this training is the failure that we saw happen in Uvalde. We cannot let that happen here in Springfield. We will not let that happen here in Springfield. This is one of the most critical roles the police department plays, is to protect the children in our community. And we are extremely committed to doing that. So we took a deep dive and looked into everything, looked into our entire response to an active shooter event and tried to find gaps in where we could improve our service.
When you analyze the Uvalde situation, what do you think was the biggest lapse or error?
I think it's clearly understood around the country, and has been for a long time, that police have to immediately go in to stop the killing. What we saw in Uvalde was early on a brief attempt at that, and then what I would describe as a total failure from that point forward. That's entirely on the shoulders of the leadership of those agencies involved. We have to set our members up in our agencies for success so that they can save lives, because that's why they're here.
Tactics are always evolving, and what we do and how we do it is in constant change. Obviously, we saw some large industry-wide changes, especially post-Columbine. That was about that same time frame ago, and that kind of changed the model from this, wait for a SWAT team to show up, and then they slowly make their way into the building, to this dynamic, immediate patrol response to go in there and solve the initial problem. And so that mindset has continued, and then obviously ever since then tactics are constantly evolving. There's always a better way to move down a hallway or go into a room, and so we try to keep as up to date as we can on those tactics.